Welcome to the ultimate guide for Marshal Pikeman for Age of Empires Mobile. I'm going to go through all the heroes from Season 1, even up to Season 6, with the brand new introduction of Otto and QSH to the game. So you're going to know exactly what your matches are going to be capable of, and even giving you some tips and tricks to use in the open field. So smash a like, comment, and subscribe, and let's dive into today's video. So when it comes to Marshal Pikeman, one thing you're going to realize is no matter what direction you go, you're going to get access to quite a lot of different support heroes. These are heroes such as Bushra here that is going to provide you with some recovery and obviously troop reduction, but providing something else. So for example, Bushra provides that disarm effect against enemies, which is really powerful because obviously stopping normal attacks means they're not going to trigger any of their secondary strike skills if they're that type of formation. Then we've got obviously Armyy, and this is more of a offensive support. You can put this hero in the lineup even as a commander if she is more starred up compared to your other heroes you've got in your lineups, and with that she's actually going to be boosting the damage of your other two DPS heroes. So you can see she is an offensive buffer. She's a support buffer for your Marshal Pikeman, which obviously has its perks too. On top of this, we finally get QSH, and this hero is going to be a very tanky hero. This is going to give you damage immunity compared to the other two heroes, and on top of this, he will recover units, and with his customizable skills, give you options like triple offensive to either deal damage or make them take more damage, and even Kingsblade, for example, to increase everyone else's damage. So there's a lot of different supports when you're playing Marshal Pikeman here, as you can see. So that's the first thing you need to take in note, because whatever route you're going to go down, especially with the formations I am going to be recommending in today's video, a lot of these supports will be replaced no matter what at the end for, you guessed it, QSH. He is going to be the best support end game that you're going to be trying to aim for in your formations. One thing though, from speculations and from information as we know so far, this hero is going to be available as the mightiest governor event hero. So you're going to be needing to save up speed ups and obviously participate in the mightiest governor event to win it and unlock this guy. So with that, let's talk about the very first formation, which is going to be your Season 1 formation. And this is basically, no matter what, the bread and butter of things. And I've even gone for a super free-to-play friendly ring setup, which we will upgrade as we hit the different types of formations later in this video. So we're running Julius Caesar, Octavian, and Bushra. And Julius Caesar is a really good hero. He's actually pretty easy to obtain, and you can get him especially through the heroic expeditions later on as well. So you definitely can work on this guy. Octavian is more on the legendary advent wheel. So spinning those empire coins to unlock this hero is going to be your go-to for him. And then Bushra, as you guys know, is obtainable again through the same things, heroic rallies, and as well as the kind of heroic expeditions. Is she going to be worth it for you though? I would say no, because when we go into the actual Marshal Pikeman lineup, you got to remember you're going to be replacing potentially that Bushra or Armyy for the Qixin Huang, which is a very powerful Marshal Pikeman support. And because of that, when we look in-game and we look at the heroes that we have to offer in that formation, you're definitely going to be keeping, most likely, Octavian as a damage dealer. This hero is a fantastic damage dealer for Marshal Pikeman. This is because his actual signature skill deals might damage to the troops once every 6 seconds, being a turn-based skill, and then it adds that 1 stack of Supreme Mark, and every time your troop activates a signature turn-based skill or a signature secondary strike skill, when there is 8 stacks, the stacks will be consumed, and you increase the troops' damage by 60%, which is kind of crazy that everyone's getting this insane steroid. And then because of that, we can run stuff like coordination, which reduces the hero's normal attacks, which we don't care about, but it increases the damage of the hero's turn-based skills, which is going to be obviously the Might of Ruler doing more damage with that skill, and our other turn-based skill, which is triple offensive. It will also boost the amount of damage that either 1 or 2 will do, which is dealing might damage to the target or dealing strategy damage to the target, but then increasing damage taken to the target on the third one. And this does change how powerful this match hits, especially with your good old friend Julius Caesar. And his hero is actually a really good Marshal Pikeman, and I have used him from season 1 all the way to now in season 4 and going into season 5. And you could argue you could use this hero because when you go into his skills, when you first look at him, he doesn't look too impressive because he's just kind of looking like he's dealing damage. But his more skills when you go into them are actually phenomenal because you're able to do some very big bangs of damage. But more importantly, you're reducing the armor of the enemy with the highest armor. And that is very powerful because if you are going against certain heroes like maybe a Barbarossa, you are reducing that hero's armor and then actually reducing his effectiveness from his scaling on his bonuses on them signature skills. So this is a really cool thing that you can be doing on. So you're always going to be whacking on that Savage. And Kingsblade, again, deals some great damage to the targets, but you also increase everyone else's damage by 20%. And this goes up to 30% when it is maxed out, which is a fantastic little support skill. So that's why you always want to kind of run these two skills. And when you look at Julius Caesar now, he does some fantastic damage. And because of that, putting him in that primary slot as your commander kind of sweetens the deal. And what we're talking about is his ranged cost skill, when you put him as a commander, says you deal might damage up to 3 enemy troops in front of you. It's basically like a cone like that, and you get some good damage off. But you also increase all your heroes' damage by 30%. So for 6 seconds, everyone's getting more damage from the commander's skill. Maybe you've got the Kingsblade layered on too, and you're reducing their armor because of the Julius Caesar. You can see this is a fantastic kind of synergistic combo with this commander that deals a ton of damage with that Octavian. And in season 1, it leaves you with Bushra. And Bushra, as we kind of hinted in this earlier section, I would honestly, if you're going to use it, maybe just keep her at the 1 star. Just because if you invest into this hero and get her into 3 or 5 stars, you might later regret it for a future hero, aka Qinshin Huang, or even someone like Ramkam. That's going to be included, as you guys guessed it, in the next set of formations in the future. So with that, let's move on to the next formation. And just to remind you all, this is the formation for season 1. We've gone for the Sacred Sage, Ring of the Clover, and Ring of the Deer as a ring combination. And we are going to talk about those rings a little bit more in depth in a moment. But one thing you need to realize is Sacred Sage is the key ring for your Marshal Pikeman. Without this ring, you're not going to be doing any damage at all. So it is going to be the must pick at the moment and the highest priority if you go down this line for this formation. When it looks at the Octavian and Bushra ring, the Ring of the Clover, really cheap ring, but you're looking for any sort of ring that gives you troop damage reduction. So you're actually reducing the damage you take in, so you can actually survive long enough between your turns while you're waiting for your turn-based skills to reactivate. And the Ring of the Deer here is just a really good ring in this formation, and the beautiful thing about this 3rd slot is you can actually swap out the Ring of the Deer for many different rings in the game, and you're going to see that as we progress into some different formations later on. Just to kind of round off this little section, the obtainability is going to be an 8 because, again, you can earn all of these heroes in-game as a free-to-play, but it might just take a long time to do so. And by the time you've got maybe one of these heroes to where you need them, you might have been able to work on a better formation in the Marshal Pikeman lineup. The viability is a solid 7. It does do some great damage, and you can do some fantastic things in the open field. But the longevity of it being a 7 as well is all on the Julius Caesar and Octavian, basically being used for season 1, 2, and basically 3 until you're getting a replacement in season 6 for one of these heroes. So with that, let's showcase a nice little tip and trick for you guys, because with Marshal Pikeman, there's one thing you need to understand to take full advantage of, and that is when we look at how turn-based skills work. And you've been hearing me say turn-based skills, and the way these are coded in game is in the very first turn of combat, all of your commanders are going to trigger their first signature skill. So they're going to go bang, 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 bang. And then you'll see as well, if it occurs, the other sections, so the second customizable skills will trigger off, and then the third. So if you have all turn-based skills on all of your heroes, you're basically going to be dealing massive amounts of damage. And because of that, what you're able to do, as you can kind of see in this great example in the background with turn-based skill combat, is you can abuse it in open field scenarios. And this is going to be very important for desolate desert gameplay, especially in the future for your kingdoms, because you're going to be teleporting right close up to the enemies. Flags to flags are going to be touching, so cities are going to be more available to utilize. And by utilizing a city, as you kind of noticed on that little example there, we're going to be able to jump in and out and in and out basically as a march. And by doing that, we are resetting our turn-based skills. So the way it works is if you're in a city, you can just go out and attack, and as soon as you start to deal that damage, pull your march back. Because you can see all of the skills are going to be triggering off, obviously, the damage. And as soon as you jump in, it's instantly off cooldown. It's a brand new combat because you end combat instantly by entering a city here. And this honestly makes Marshal Pikeman the kings of city hopping and basically getting trades on march if you're at equal footing. So this is a really important thing to notice when you are playing your good old Marshal Pikeman. And with that, let's kind of go into some more in-depth knowledge, because going into the next seasons, you will get access to this new formation, which is going to be Julius Caesar, Octavian, and Tamiris. And the really thing which is really interesting about Tamiris is that is going to be two builds that you're going to be able to do for her. One of them is a very spicy and more, experimental build, which does have its reasons to be used, which we'll explain in a moment. However, the build we are going is the more safer and the more stable comp, which is basically giving you as much damage boost from the Tamiris' signature skill while using Tenacity and Peaceful Haven as the combo to heal your troops on a turn-based basis and get that troop damage reduction. You may notice in this example, compared to in Season 1, we have upgraded our ring, because the one thing I would recommend if you're aiming to go the distance with the Marshal Pikeman is to get that Tranquil Water. Sacred Sage and Tranquil Water on Marshal Pikeman makes them really versatile, especially in taking that early burst damage on the enemies while abusing their turn-based combat. And if you're using this in obviously city hopping situations, it gets even more value out of it. So I would always recommend going for this and using that Ring of the Deer for now, or you can even replace that for that Ring of the Clover or any other ring that you might suggest in the comment section down below. So let's talk about Tamiris, because that is going to be the big question on your guys' mind. Because with this formation, we do get a really cool support hero, and she is based with her signature skill here. Every 9 seconds, she's going to be reducing troop damage taken, which is phenomenal. Reducing troop damage taken in the game, as I've always said on the channel, is king. It's the #1 stat that you should be trying to aim for in the game. It's going to allow you to actually bully and beat people that have really high damage outputs, but they don't realize that you're cutting that damage by 50% or even more in certain scenarios with the right stacking. So when we look at Tamiris, she is reducing that troop damage taken, but on top of that, every 3 times your commander uses a skill, excluding those passive or commander skills, you increase damage taken to the enemy troop, which is really cool because obviously as a turn-based skill combat, as we've just seen, this is going to go off pretty fast and pretty often, meaning as the next cycle comes around, we're going to be dealing even more damage to them to actually do bigger burst on the follow-up hit, which is really cool. And obviously this steroid does work obviously on the Julius Caesar and on the Octavian. But what gets really interesting is depending on what type of spicy build do you want to go for, because if you go for the safe build, which I do recommend, and I think it's the more meta build, going Tenacity and Peaceful Haven is a no-brainer, because as people know, with Peaceful Haven, this is the best skill in the game at just reducing troop damage taken. This is a 20% reduction whenever you basically recover units. And what's really good about that is Tenacity recovers units every 9 seconds. So automatically on turn 1, this could be triggering from the normal attack that you've hit. So this could obviously heal troops, which then gives you the troop damage taken. And even obviously 9 seconds later in the fight, you're able to trigger this again and obviously replace the Peaceful Haven. So you can see how this is a self-sufficient combo. There is one other combo which is more viable for Marshal Cavalry with Tomyris. However, some people are talking about this as a spicer build, and I just want to honorably mention it in today's ultimate guide for Marshal Pikeman. That is the Rending Covenant and Roar of Victory build. This might not sound like something that you want to be doing. However, if you put your Tomyris in the Roar of Victory and Rending Covenant build, this is a secondary strike and passive build, right? So what are we trying to do here with these two skills? Or if you really want to, you can go Roar of Victory and even Armor Piercer as a other super spicy build. What you're trying to achieve here is having her obviously in the commander slot to increase the might damage dealt by your other two heroes. But what you really are trying to accomplish is this Octavian. Because what people do not understand and kind of overlook with this synergy is the fact that, again, with Octavian's signature skill, this is whenever anyone does a signature turn-based skill or a signature secondary strike skill. So if you're able to get those signature strike skills going, you're going to be obviously cooking, right? Obviously, it is going to be one build people might not like. I personally don't like it, and I think in the future, there is going to be a better hero that serves that purpose. Because at the end of the day, this is a signature turn-based skill, and yes, we're trying to use customizable skills to kind of do what that hero wants us to do, but when you test it out, it's not really going to perform as good as you think. So that is everything we need to know with Tomyris, and then what I would recommend, obviously, on that build. So to kind of summarize that, this is going to be your season 2 kind of free formation, depending on your spending level. Tomyris is going to be available through the daily chests in-game, so you're going to have to spend daily unlocking her, and once she is unlocked, you can obviously use your universal medals if you choose to on this hero. So this is going to be the Peaceful Haven and the Tenacity build for Tomyris, and I would say again, this is the more better build. It just works infinitely better with Julius Caesar and Octavian. So with that now, we're going to start diving into the alternative build in here, because this is going to be where Ramcam gets introduced as a Marshal Pikeman unit, and he is an absolute monster in the open field. And the beautiful thing about this formation is you're able to do quite a couple of things. With Julius Caesar, we already know we're able to enable that all hero damage, but Ramcam also offers something different, being potentially the commander for your unit, which we'll discuss in a second. But with his War Elephant and Peaceful Haven combo and his signature skill all working all hand in hand together, this is going to be the one guy that you're going to be wanting to aim for. He is a mighty governor event hero, and what this guy does compared to any other heroes in Age of Empires Mobile, which makes him super unique and absolutely loved by many, is the fact that he's the first hero that you come across that actually provides a massive area of effect buff. And this is very key because this is obviously buffing all of your formations in Age of Empires Mobile to be way more effective than your opponents. Yes, you might be sacrificing a 5th march potentially as a DPS march, but with this 5th support march that's buffing your 4 major heroes that you've been working on and all of their formations and all of their mounts and you name it, Ramcam is going to make them perform even better. And that is because the Splendor of Signet here does an amazing skill where you increase the highest attributes of all allied players, commanders within the area of 1500 by 4, and this stacks up to 6 times for 3 minutes. He also recovers units, which is really relevant because him recovering units on his signature skill means you can be super greedy and instantly trigger Peaceful Haven and just have troop reduction again onto your march. The War Elephant is a fantastic little DPS skill that he has access to, which is going to deal damage on a turn-based basis. However, you have a chance, a 50% chance to reduce the troop damage taken from the next enemy skill. And yes, this is a fantastic skill at max rank at level 20. You can't get wrong with this, right? 20%, 300% damage. It is just so goddamn good in Age of Empires Mobile. So he's going to be the very first kind of hero in that spotlight. And as we kind of hinted in the formations, what makes him potentially a commander replacement for that Julius Caesar? Well, when you look at his commander skill, Valor of Rammer, you make up to 3 troops of yours or your allies. So this could be you and then technically anyone around you because of the way it's worded. Nearby enter the relaxation state and increase their damage by 14% for 6 seconds. This scales up with your might. And when the relaxation state ends, it recovers their units by 25% of the damage taken during this period. So for 6 seconds, you're getting a 14% damage buff at base, which can go up a little bit more, most likely around 15% when you get the good might on it at minimal. But when it ends, you recover 25% of any of the damage you took during those 6 seconds, meaning, again, you and all of your allies gain that. So you can see why, as a commander, Ramcam can be replaced for your Julius Caesar. So when you are looking at building this formation in game, you can always put Julius Caesar first as the DPS march if you want to have more damage overall. However, if you want to play more of the support march and be a bit more tankier as a formation too, and obviously buff your allies, I would always recommend putting Ramcam in the commander. And before you ask and before you comment, I would not recommend putting Octavian in there. Yes, he's got a really cool kind of skill here, but we don't really care about adding these stacks any faster. We do it pretty well already. There's no need for that. So with that all in case, let's go back into the next and big thing that you need to understand with your good old heroes, because we kind of hinted on it with our Ramcam, and that is the fact that you're going to get access to 2 actual AoE support heroes in Age of Empires Mobile. And AoE means area of effect. So anyone in a area nearby is going to get this trigger. As we've kind of seen, our good old friend Ramcam here is going to have some exceptional kind of skills, giving you those attributes that you need in game. However, when we look at Otto is also a brand new hero that you're going to get access to Season 5. And what's really cool about Otto, he is on the legendary add event wheel. So you're actually going to be able to spin for this hero, and he's super powerful for Marshal Pikeman, and especially for this synergy we've got right here. The reason why he's so good is because once every 6 seconds, he's dealing might damage to the enemy troops, but every 3 times he does this skill, he reduces his skill cooldown by 3 seconds. What that means is he goes bang, bang, and then on the next one, it's going to cut down in half and go bang again. It's just so sick when you start to see this go off. What's even more powerful though, with him, even though he's dealing some fantastic damage as a hero and as your main commander that you're going to be going down, he also provides a massive damage boost to anyone around him. You just increase the damage dealt by allied troops, and that means any type of damage they're dealing is getting better. So he is a fantastic support that you're not going to want to miss out on. And because of this, and the final iteration of this march, so from Season 3 onwards, you're going to be aiming towards Auto, Ramcam, and a brand new hero, Qin Shi Huang. And QSH, as I like to nickname him, is going to be a fantastic support that really makes this go to the next level. It is going to be very hard to kind of obtain in the reality of both Ramcam and QSH are mighty governor event heroes. So that means you as a player are gonna need to save up your speed ups and obviously resources and then push to win in those positions to unlock 2 MGE heroes. However, Otto is going to be the legendary advent wheel, and because of that, in theory, all 3 heroes are going to be kind of obtainable for anyone to play in game. This is not going to require you to technically spend your money. If you just save up your speed ups and you're in the right empire and situation, you are more than capable of winning. And what's really cool about this is the viability and longevity. I do believe this is going to be one of the best, if not best, support formations in the game. As you guys will see, Otto has one of the best commander skills for this lineup that provides him a damage immunity state when he gets low. And because he gets low, it allows him to get free damage out, and because of the free damage and his signature skill, he's boosting everyone around his damage dealt increase. On top of that, you got your Ramcam that is also going to be obviously doing some great damage and boosting the attributes of everyone during that state. But QSH, his signature skill, allows you to recover some good old units and reduce your damage taken. But what's really powerful is the damage immunity that you can read there in that signature skill. Allowing you to have that damage immunity uptime actually makes this a super robust March, and it's actually going to take a lot of damage and actually have the time to heal it back up from the actual skills that they've got in play. And because of this, as I've said, these are going to be your final go-to formations. And what I would notice from all of the progression from season 1 is the ring choice for us. We're going down the Tranquil Water and Lofty Mountain Signet Ring push. And the reason why we're doing this is, again, having the perfect amount of reduction from Tranquil Water and the Lofty Mountain. And if we are in scenarios which are very fast paced, we're going to be able to actually take advantage, obviously, of the damage switch of the Lofty Mountain. So the longer those fights are coming out, the better we actually do come out of these fights. You can replace the Lofty Mountain for, again, any other rings, like the Ring of the Falcon, but I'm going to be discussing that in a second when we talk about other Signet Rings, mounts, and gems for these heroes. So with that, let's go on to the final part, which obviously showcasing of these heroes' skills. So for his signature skill we've got here, this is what makes our Otto actually do his damage and obviously the great buff, as we kind of leaked and showcased a little bit early on. And with these big bonuses that you're able to kind of stack with Otto and obviously our good old Ramcam, we're going to need a way to keep these up. So when we look at his commander skill, you'll notice the Divine State is a 7-second immunity to all damage. And that is absolutely phenomenal, because that always means when we read his skill, you should always be able to get at least 1 extra trigger of this every single time. And when you combine that with obviously the Ramcam again, you should also get another turn of triggering, as well as the QSH, which we're going to showcase in a moment. When we go into his other skill though, as you saw, the Holy Roman Empire as the choice that you're going to be able to pick on him. Once every 6 seconds, you deal might damage to the enemy troop while reducing the troop damage taken by your hero, and every 3 times the hero triggers their signature skill, you're going to be dealing an extra 5%, which combos with his own signature skill. So what that means is when you get that 3-second cut off, that extra cooldown reduction on your main skill, and you're going to fire off a little bit more quicker, this makes you do a little bit more damage on top as well. So it is a no-brainer that you're going to be picking this skill for him. And when we go back into the other choices that you have for him, Savage is definitely going to be the best choice, because Savage is going to be reducing the enemy's armor, and again allowing you, when you return back to Otto, to deal some good old damage there. So coming back into our good skills, we're going to move into the star ratings of Otto because he actually has some really good stars. And again, you can check all of this information out on my channel because I do showcase all the new heroes with all this information on a separate video. But the 1-star is increasing that damage rate by an additional 20%. And then increasing the damage dealt bonus on your troops within range by an additional 1%. And that is going to be huge. It doesn't sound massive, but when you have your skill scaled up with this extra 1%, you can already see this is a 1.6% damage increase. It's not a minimal. When you stack this up 6 times, that is going into a 7.2 kind of amount. It's kind of ridiculous the amount this is buffing up everyone at level 1. This is being showcased at, right? So then moving into the 5 stars, and then as you can see, each time Imperial Privilege is activated, reducing troop damage taken. Really powerful. All your troops within the area now gain troop production and damage dealt bonus. So if you are wondering, out of all these formations, which heroes would I try to 5-star, Otto is going to be the one. And this is the reason why I've actually showcased his stars compared to any of the other heroes in game. Then moving into QSH, this is just a quick rundown of what he's all about, but recovering those units for your march in the commander skill and obviously dealing a little bit extra skill damage. It's nothing too good compared to Otto. However, his signature skill is. The signature skill recovers units every 6 seconds, which is really good. It goes off your strategy and your might bonus, which means for this one hero, you're going to be wanting all attribute gems in your obviously gem selection. And then at the same time, you also have a 10% chance to go into the damage immunity state for 1 second, and during this, it troops just ignores all damage. So again, very, very powerful skill that you're able to do. And again, when you upgrade this hero, this does become even better for this march. So with that now, we've kind of gone through a lot of information, and I do apologize to you guys, but hopefully you've held on towards the end. But we've gone through every single formation from season 1 coming up to season 5, and what I'll do is give you guys a quick rundown, summary, and give you those extra investment tips that you're going to need. So to start it off, season 1 is going to be Julius Caesar, Octavian, and Bushra. For my recommendations, I would go for a 1-star investment only on the Bushra, with knowledge of you're going to be replacing her. Octavian and Julius Caesar can easily be 3-starred, and you'll realize even with just 3-starred heroes here, they do enough damage and work for what you're going to be needing them for in the open field. Then we go into the next season and we get basically to Myris. If you're a spender, you're going to be able to upgrade your march and basically deal way more damage, because the disarm, as you'll realize while using the Bushra, doesn't really play off as much as you think you needed it compared to your just straight up damage increase. Moving on though, we do have Ramcam, and this is the best of the best that you're going to be using for a little while, and you're going to be holding out on this. Ramcam can easily be 3 or 5-starred. He's that good of a hero, and with that, you can imagine if you've followed my investment logic so far, this could be your first lineup that is 3-starred, 3-starred, 5-starred in their respective orders. So that means when you go into the last season, you're going to have Otto, Ramcam, and QSH. And Otto, I would again advise, if anything, to push for that 5-star to make that damage reduction online on that AoE with the damage dealt bonus. And that means then you're going to have a 5-star Otto, a 5-star Ramcam, and for the QSH, honestly, a 3-star should be good enough, even though his 5-star is really good. And you can check out all of that information later on another separate video on the channel. So with this, let me finish up with the video showcasing some mount information and then some alternate signet rings as well as gems. So when it comes to your trait selection for your mounts, what you're going to be trying to hunt down as a Marshal Pikeman is going to be the Phalanx Breaker. It is a no-brainer. You're able to increase your turn-based skill damage by 10%. So this is going to increase your damage for that hero. You're going to be trying to get the Phalanx Breaker basically on your Julius Caesars. You can put it on, obviously, your Octavian. You can put it on Otto, and it's going to do fantastic in that role. If you're looking for a second alternate job, you can either look for one of the different types of buffs that I'm going to showcase in a moment, which is going to be increasing your damage in either solo battles or even rally battles, depending on how you want to play. I would say solo battles is the way to go. Alternatively, though, there is the better choices at the bottom, which you would put on heroes like your Ramcam, like your QSH, your Bushra, and your Tamiris would all use skills like, for example, your Renewal, which is going to be or Lifesaver or Healing Armor. So you've got, after the mounted hero causes recovery effects, all damage taken by your troops is reduced by 4.8%. So anytime Ramcam heals now, on top of the reductions he's already doing, Lifesaver is going to do more. So this is going to be the first thing you're going to hunt for. Then, if you want to try and get your healing a little bit more online, obviously Renewal is really good. Alternatively, you can put Healing Armor if you're going to run multiple Tenacity builds in your formation, obviously to make them all go off. But that is basically all you're going to be needing to do by that. The only alternatives that you could be looking for are kind of traits here that state that you're trying to reduce a specific amount of damage. And that is because you as a pikeman might be going against a lot more Lubus and Hannibals, so you might want to reduce their secondary strike skill damage you take, and that is through Blade Sever. So those are all the actual kind of traits that you care about with the Marshal Pikeman, and you will notice a lot of these will kind of follow through for other marchers that are similar, but might need to just change their damage type trait to maybe the passive one or the active one, for example. So with that, let's move into the Signet Rings and then obviously your gem choices. So for the Signet Rings, it's going to be quite easy. As I've already said, Lofty Mountain and the Tranquil Water is going to be what I would consider the support combo that you're going to be wanting to put on. However, we do have news of a brand new ring coming called the Sage of Prosperity, I believe, and you can check my video on that. However, I would recommend maybe running Tranquil Water and that Sage. This is going to basically reduce the amount of damage you take, as well as actually healing your march a little bit further, giving you more survivability than the actual Lofty Mountain, which is just reducing might damage taken in combat. But these are two really powerful rings. They're going to beat a lot of players that are using the warrior type setups, and technically other Marshal Pikemen as well on the open field. However, there is some really good alternatives that you can be using in the epics. For example, Ring of the Badger is a definite all-star for a lot of players. For the first 18 seconds, you reduce troop normal attack and secondary strike skill damage taken. Meaning, if you are trying to promote, for example, jumping in and out, in and out, and in and out of a city, like we saw earlier on the video, you're going to be able to actually reduce the troop damage that they deal in those early turns from the normal attacks, and if they do land a secondary strike skill, you're reducing that specifically by 10%. So it's a really good way for pikemen to really hunt down those cavalry units like Lubus and Hannibals out there, and even technically Belisariuses that use secondary strike skills. Then there is obviously the other stuff like your Ring of the Falcon. This is an all-star again, reducing troop damage taken and recovering troops for your marchers. And then we've got Ring of the Deer, which you've seen me even advise, because this is reducing a random enemy's damage, but you're increasing one of your heroes' damage by 7%. This obviously does increase. If you guys just wanted to check this out in game, you can, but this is going to be a 22% increase at max, which is a 44% differential, which is a good tempo swing in the fight. And if you ever want to check out what any Signet Ring does and how high it scales, you can always click on this little bar here at the very top like I just did and hit the skill, and it will show you the skill upgrades or what it looks like when you upgrade your gear side of it. Really cool, just to give you guys an extra tip in today's video. To finish it off, the only other ring I would honestly recommend in this area is that Ring of Clover. Ring of Clover is the only alternate ring that you might want to rack on here just to reduce the troop damage taken. 50% to reduce 25% is actually a very good skill and very underrated, especially in the early game, because it is a blue ring that's super easy to obtain. So apart from that, those are all the rings that you could be going for, and obviously without mentioning Sacred Sage as the main ring you should be focusing on. So now we've kind of gone through all of the Signet Rings. We've gone through all of the mount stuff that you need to know. So to finish it off for your good old gems, what gems would you be aiming for on your heroes? So when it comes to your actual slots, your strategy slot, which is going to be your unit capacity, unit health, and vice versa, I'd honestly only go for the one, which is unit capacity. You'll realize the more capacity that you have is actually going to make your turn-based skills hit that even harder on turn one. And especially if you're trying to promote and keep doing that city hopping tactic from earlier on in your gameplay, unit capacity is going to take full advantage of that. So I would always recommend, honestly, with Marshal Pikeman, going full unit capacity on all of your heroes when you're out there. When it comes to your hero ones, this is obviously a no-brainer. All of these heroes that you'll notice do use might, and you want to just kind of go for might for every single hero to get the maximum amount of stats on them. If you check out any skill on them, such as maybe a Mansa Musa for a good example, or even, I'm trying to think another really good one, but maybe Mansa Musa, you're able to use all attributes to get maybe the armor and obviously the might bonus. QSH was one we mentioned earlier for the Marshal Pikeman, so if you unlock Q Xing Huang, if I'm pronouncing that right, you will obviously then use all attributes because he scales off might and strategy. So that's a really good one there for you guys. Apart from that, every other hero go might. When it comes to your tactics, this is again pretty simple. You're gonna go for the only one that matters for your class, which is gonna be the hero's turn-based skill damage. You're going to be putting this on every DPS that you run, which is Julius Caesar. This is going to be your Otto. This is also going to be your Octavian, for example. When you're running stuff like Ramcam for the healing, and again, even healing builds when it comes down to your QSH, depending on what you want to run, or Tamaris or Bushra, anyone that's running healing, you obviously want to put on hero recovery effect gems for your match. And by doing that, you should be cooked, and you should be cooking everyone in the good old game. And that, I know it's a long video and it's been an ultimate guide, it's been a long one with the brand new introduction to mounts as on top, but that is everything. That is everything in 2025 that you're going to need to know about Marshal Pikeman in Age of Empires Mobile. So just to give you guys everything one last time and to give you guys a summary, we've got Season 1, which is the Julius Caesar, Octavian, Bushra, and March. Really good. This is early game. Aim to get that Sacred Sage and that Ring of the Clover if you want to, giving you that troop damage reduction. Ring of the Deer is just something that you could go for, or pick any of the alternate rings I have just gone through. If you go into the Season 2 though, you'll see we are definitely aiming for the Tranquil Water as the main game, as well as Octavian and Tamaris being the kind of combo that we're running in this lineup to obviously deal damage, and Tamaris to increase everyone's damage in that lineup. But Tamaris is going to be replaced, and if you're looking for her, I would just say go for the 1 or 3 star and you're good as golden. But Ramcam is the mightiest governor event that you're going to be aiming for. And again, if you're able to 5-star any of the early game Marshal Pikeman, I would go for the Ramcam. He's so good to invest into for the Universal Medals if you're aiming for this lineup. Julius Caesar, you can technically spend your money on through the Heroic Expedition and get him done even faster that way if you aim to have him 5-star too. And then finally, the aim for the game. This is what the golden era of what Marshal Pikeman is going to look like. Otto, Ramcam, QSH. And if you're able to 5-star Otto and Ramcam, that is what's going to make this match absolutely a game changer on the open field. So with that, we have gone through everything of this game for Marshal Pikeman, including obviously how to take these guys, all of their skills here. We've gone through even the gameplay for you guys so you can take advantage of city hopping. We've just gone through all of the formations that you need. So if you enjoyed the video, smash like, comment, and subscribe. I know it's been a long one, but you guys have been asking for longer content, more in-depth analysis, so hopefully I've done that in today's one. So until the next one, stay safe, stay sneaky. Peace out.